Picture this. You're Joe Rogan. You've spent 15 years building yourself into the most trusted voice in American media. The guy who isn't afraid of anything, the guy who will sit across from a conspiracy theorist, a senator, a scientist, and a UFC fighter and treat them all exactly the same. Your whole brand, your entire identity, is that you go where the conversation goes. No topic is off limits. No truth is too uncomfortable. And then your buddy Theo Vaughn shows up, and Theo starts talking, and suddenly you are the one trying to change the subject.
It's just like, what is going... I don't know, man.
We got to get you off those antidepressants, son. You're losing your fucking marbles.
You think I am?
Come hang out with us. Just chill out.
I'm here.
Just chill out at the mothership tonight.
Here's the moment you need to understand before anything else. Theo Vaughn, Rat King philosopher, Louisiana swamp sage, the man who once turned a story about his dad's drug addiction into a cry-laugh comedy masterpiece, Theo Vaughn sits down on the Joe Rogan Experience. And he starts unraveling. Not in a sad way, in an awake way. He goes off about Israel, about U.S. foreign policy, about religion being weaponized, about elites and Satan being among us, about money and war, and the way people in power feed on the rest of us like it's a buffet they paid for with our lives. It is, frankly, the most Joe Rogan thing anyone has ever said.
It's all just a cat and mouse game. People are like, we'll elect the Democrats next time. It's like, but it's all the same shit has been happening forever. They haven't been helping anybody forever. They're letting politicians slurp on kids. All of our money goes to Israel, and they're using it to get genocide people. It's like everybody is scared out of their wits right now. It's like our religious leaders are afraid to speak out, and it's like it's a time where it's like Satan is amongst us, and our religious leaders are talking about the poll. It's just like, what is going... I don't know, man.
We got to get...
And you know what Joe Rogan says in response? He leans back in the same chair where he has validated flat earthers, questioned vaccine mandates, and let Alex Jones scream for 4 hours. And he says, roughly, "We got to get you off those antidepressants, son. You're losing your marbles."
Get you off those antidepressants, son. You're losing your marbles.
You think I am?
Come hang out with us. Just chill out.
I'm here.
Just chill out at the mothership tonight.
I do have to pee in a little while, but...
You can pee.
I'm going to pee in a minute, man.
We'll let you.
But no, people are just scared, dude. This is
They
shit
won't
that I
let you
hear
in
from
Canada.
people.
The clip went everywhere. Instagram, Twitter, everywhere. And a whole lot of people who have been watching Rogan for years, looked at it and felt something they couldn't quite name at first. Something like recognition. Because that moment, that one deflection, that one little joke about his buddy's mental health, that wasn't just banter. That was a mask slipping. That was Joe Rogan in real time showing you exactly who he is in 2026. And Theo Vaughn, God bless him, just kept talking. Let's go back. Because to understand how wild this moment is, you have to remember what Joe Rogan used to be. Old Rogan, 2015, 2016, even 2019 Rogan was electric precisely because of a specific kind of restless suspicion. He didn't trust the government.
Like every other industry in the United States, it has to be regulated. If you don't regulate it...
But who regulates it?
The government.
Do you trust the government to regulate the internet?
Absolutely.
You trust the people that got us into the Iraq war under false pretenses to regulate the internet? Do you think that makes any sense?
Well, wait a minute. I would not... The people who got us into the Iraq war...
It's the government.
Was the politicians.
It's the government.
He didn't trust mainstream media.
The big loser has been mainstream media because the trust in mainstream media is at an all-time low. I mean, they are laying off journalists left and right. No one wants to read the newspaper anymore. No one believes them. CNN lost all their big hosts.
He thought pharmaceutical companies were pulling strings. He thought the wars America fought were shadier than they were sold. He brought on guests that CNN wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. And he didn't do it ironically. He did it because he genuinely seemed to believe that the official story was almost never the whole story. That Rogan, that scrappy, curious, slightly paranoid Rogan, built the biggest podcast on the planet. Now meet Theo Vaughn in this recent episode. Theo is ranting, and he's ranting about war in Iran.
I'm just sick of this shit. And I'm sick of rich people not putting their kids over in these wars and shit like that. Put your kids up there. Let them go.
Especially if you're asking for it.
Especially if you're out there Put your fucking honky little kid up there, man. That shit makes me mad, bro.
In Lebanon.
And what about Lebanon now?
I know. Israel's invaded Lebanon. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, just stop. Like, what do you need?
Well, they're trying to, supposedly, they're trying to stop the terrorists.
Yeah, that's crazy, though, if you're the terrorist. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you want to stop, stand in front of the mirror and start there.
In Gaza.
You see those kids in Gaza with, like, they were playing doll, and they were like, it was like they loaded their doll up on a stretcher, like they were
jeez,
heartbreaking.
Bro, imagine like the trauma. If you lived in that place pre-October 7th, it was not fun even back then. It was an open-air prison by most accounts.
Oh, yeah, they were taking settlers' homes. They'd come and knock into your home and then eventually just take it away.
Well, there's an attitude that a lot of Israelis have that it's all theirs, you know?
About religious leaders who are too scared to speak up. About the terrifying intersection of money and military power and media silence. About feeling like the whole world is being run by people who have decided the rest of us are just background characters in their story. He's talking about Satan being among us.
It's all just a cat and mouse game. People are like, we'll elect the Democrats next time. It's like, but it's all the same has been happening forever. They haven't been helping anybody forever. They're letting politicians slurp on kids. All of money goes to Israel and they're using it to genocide people. It's like everybody is scared out of their wits right now. It's like our religious leaders are afraid to speak out, and it's like it's a time where it's like Satan is amongst us and our religious leaders are about at the poll. It's just like, what is going, I don't know, man.
Which, yes, sounds intense when you pull it out of context. But if you've spent 5 minutes in the comments section of any Rogan episode from 2017, this is the standard rhetoric of the Rogan universe. Theo is speaking Rogan's first language. He is channeling the exact conspiratorial, questioning, why isn't anyone talking about this energy that made Joe Rogan famous? And Joe Rogan's response is to suggest that his friend needs psychiatric medication. Think about that. Not, that's an interesting point. Not, Jamie, pull that up. Not even, I disagree because, just, you sound unwell, buddy. That is the most powerful deflection available to a person who doesn't want to engage with something. You don't argue with a crazy person. You don't debate a crazy person. You just gently, publicly suggest they might need help. And the conversation is over. Rogan has used that move before. On guests he doesn't respect. Not on friends, not until now. And here is the most emotionally uncomfortable part of this whole story. Theo defended him for it. He went out publicly and said that people were taking the clip out of context, that Rogan has been nothing but supportive of him, that it was just between friends, which maybe it was, but that defense also tells you everything about the dynamic. Because when a powerful person dismisses your most sincere outburst as a symptom of mental illness, and your first instinct is to protect them, that's not friendship talking. That's something older and sadder. That's what it looks like when you've been in someone's orbit long enough that you start managing their comfort instead of honoring your own truth. Now here is where this stops being a personality story and becomes something genuinely alarming. In the same episode, Theo brings up Gaza. He talks about drones in the air all day, about doctors describing wounds they'd never seen before, about AI-assisted warfare.
Drone warfare in general is crazy.
It's crazy. And they've been using that, dude. In Gaza, there was a lot of, like, I think it was a experimental grounds for a lot of insane new warfare type of possibilities.
Well, a lot of it was traditional missiles, right?
Yeah, but there's a lot of like we had a doctor one time podcasting, and he was saying that there were like bullets that had gone down a child, like just crazy, like
shot down, like from a drone that's above them.
Yes, like something in the air. And he said that there were drones in the air all day. You know, there's that.
And then he mentions Palantir, the data analytics company founded by Peter Thiel, and its involvement in Israeli military operations. Rogan acts surprised. He asks if Palantir is really involved. Theo says yes. Jamie pulls up sources.
Palantir company just keeping tabs on everything that was happening. And
Palantir's involved in Gaza?
Palantir was involved in Gaza, yeah.
For sure? Mm-hmm. Put that into perplexity. Because
allegedly.
So how does that work? They have like facial recognition and ID software, and
that's scary. That's scary, dude. Because they have a huge contract to take care of all of America's.
And you ever see that dude Alex Karp, the CEO of Palantir, the way he moves his arms around and squirms and talks?
Yeah,
it's very odd. Very odd. Like someone should tell him. People don't really behave that way.
He looks like he was breastfed by a
Israeli
drone.
government began using Palantir software in 2014. Significantly scaled up its partnership during the genocide in Gaza, which began in This is for sure a biased source, just by the way they phrase that. Which began in 2023. Palantir CEO Alex Karp said, "I am proud that we are supporting Israel in every way we can." Israeli military has used Palantir technology to plan attacks in Lebanon and Gaza.
And rather than engage with what those sources actually say, Rogan immediately finds a reason to dismiss the framing, steer toward a different search tool instead, and question the bias of the reporting.
Yeah, that sounds kind of wild or
weird.
vague.
We bring together people of all faiths and backgrounds to challenge injustice and build peace around the globe. So maybe that's not the best source.
I mean, it sounds like they have a good idea. It also sounds like they just put 4 words together that sounded great. Americans Friends Service Company.
I read stuff like that and I go, what is that, a CIA-run company?
I agree.
Like, you know?
This is not some moonbat conspiracy website. Palantir's work with defense agencies and foreign militaries is something the company has at various points promoted itself on. It's been covered by mainstream financial and technology press. Palantir's own executive vice president spoke to Bloomberg about it in January 2024. But Joe Rogan looks at the reporting and essentially says, "This seems biased. Let's check somewhere else instead." Read that back.
This is for sure a biased source, just by the way they phrase that. Which began in 2023. Palantir CEO Alex Karp said, "I am proud that we are supporting Israel in every way we can."
The host who spent years telling his audience that mainstream media was corrupt and untrustworthy, that you had to read between the lines, that official sources were just propaganda with better graphics. That host looked at factual reporting about a tech company's documented military contracts and dismissed it because of tone. Not because the facts were wrong, because the phrasing felt biased. Now, here is what makes this connect so perfectly to everything else. Rogan is not some isolated figure anymore. He is embedded, deeply embedded, in a world of billionaires, tech founders, defense-adjacent entrepreneurs, and political power players. The same kind of world that Palantir operates in. The same kind of world that funds the think tanks that shape the foreign policy that Theo was ranting about. And when you are that embedded, when you have taken that much money, built that many relationships, attended that many dinners, there are certain names you cannot afford to say with the wrong inflection. Certain topics that suddenly, mysteriously seem too complicated or too biased to engage with honestly. Theo Von is sitting across from Rogan talking like a guy who just figured out how all this works. Joe Rogan is responding like a guy who figured it out a while ago and decided the view from inside was worth the trade. And the single most revealing thing Rogan does in that whole exchange isn't agreeing or disagreeing. It's the speed at which he finds an escape hatch, because a man with nothing to protect doesn't vibe check sources. A man with nothing to protect reads the article. Now, and I need you to understand that all of this is happening simultaneously, Joe Rogan is dealing with a completely different but deeply related crisis. On a separate episode with comedian and political commentator Dave Smith, Rogan goes off on the Maga movement, and not gently. He calls a significant chunk of it a movement of, essentially, weird and unintelligent people. A sprawling collection of, in his words, effing dorks. He separates out what he calls genuine patriots, but the broader characterization is brutal.
Make America greater, I'm down. But make America great again, and then it becomes a movement of a bunch of fucking dorks? Because a lot of them are dorks. A lot of them, these really weird, fucking uninteresting, unintelligent people that have got something they cling to. And there's a lot of people that are just real, genuine patriots.
And then he goes further. He brings up deportations and says that when you look at the actual history, politicians like Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama were arguably more aggressive on immigration enforcement than the current administration. Which, whether you agree with that or not, is exactly the kind of nuanced observation that the Maga ecosystem has zero tolerance for. The backlash was immediate and volcanic. Right-wing outlets, commentators, podcasters, the entire infrastructure that Rogan spent years quietly coexisting with, and that spent years using his reach as a kind of soft cultural endorsement, turned on him. And most significantly, J.D. Vance. The Vice President of the United States publicly said he was going to personally contact a podcast host to correct his political commentary. He was going to text him. I want you to feel the weight of that sentence. The sitting Vice President of the United States announced in public that he was going to personally contact a podcast host to correct his political commentary. That is not what you do to a free, independent voice who is irrelevant to your movement. That is what you do to a valuable asset who has stepped out of line. That is what you do when you consider someone part of your coalition and you want them to remember it. And here is what makes this connect so perfectly to the Theo situation. When a senior government official is texting you about your political opinions, when the vice president considers your podcast important enough to personally push back on, you are no longer some free-range comedian operating outside the system. You are in the system. You are on the board. You are someone whose words carry weight in places that have a vested interest in controlling what you say. And when your friend Theo sits across from you and starts poking exactly the kinds of institutional power structures that those people are invested in protecting, when he starts talking about drones and AI warfare and the specific defense tech companies keeping tabs on civilian populations, the smart money move is not to agree. The smart money move is to suggest he needs a new prescription. Rogan built his brand on the idea that he was too big, too independent, too not beholden to anyone to be pressured. But J.D. Vance texting you is pressure, and calling your buddy crazy instead of engaging his argument is what pressure looks like when it works. Now look, I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, Theo Von, you're making Theo Von into some kind of prophet here? Fair. Fair enough. Because Theo Von is not a saint. And the most intellectually honest thing this video can do is look at that directly. In September 2025, the Department of Homeland Security posted a 31-second video on their X account, a slick little propaganda reel bragging about deportation numbers. And right at the top of it, they used footage of Theo Von, a comedian known for his stories about addiction, poverty, and growing up on the fringes of American society, used as a face of federal immigration enforcement. They had clipped him saying, "Heard you got deported, dude. Bye."
Heard you got deported, dude. Bye.
From a random parking lot interaction, stripped it of all context, and dropped it into a government hype video like he was a spokesman. Theo's father immigrated from Nicaragua. He has his dad's immigration papers framed in his house, and now his face is in a federal deportation promo. When Theo found out, he was shaken. He talked about it on his podcast, about getting floods of harassment, about feeling paranoid, about pulling his curtains, about the government knowing his address, about why the government is even making these videos in the first place. That experience, the raw, visceral, bone-deep experience of watching your image and your voice get weaponized without your consent for a political agenda.
They made me the video thing. You see that thing where they put me on the video?
Oh, that was crazy. They didn't even ask you.
Bro, it was really scary for me.
That experience does something to a person. It makes you look at every media figure differently. It makes you see the machinery under the performance. And then there's the other side of Theo's world. According to a story Brendan Schaub told, he was at Tucker Carlson's Christmas party in Franklin, Tennessee, when he ran into Theo Von and Candace Owens together, and not just as acquaintances. Theo and Candace are apparently neighbors, their kids are close. Candace's kids reportedly call Theo Uncle Theo. He's at their house multiple times a week for dinner. This is not a liberal media dissident sneaking into the belly of the beast. This is a guy who is comfortable at that table. So let's be very clear about what we're dealing with. Theo Von is not some resistance hero. He's not a left-wing warrior. He is a guy who has been embedded in the broader right-wing media ecosystem. Tucker's Christmas parties, Candace's neighborhood dinners, the whole 9 yards. Which makes what he's doing on Rogan's podcast all the more remarkable. Because he's not an outsider throwing rocks at the establishment. He's someone who has been inside the house, watched how it works, got burned by it once when DHS used his face as propaganda, and is now sitting across from the man who arguably is the establishment. Rogan, the guy senators text, the guy tech billionaires call a friend. And he is absolutely refusing to shut up. The uncle at Candace Owens' dinner table is the one saying the things that make Joe Rogan nervous. That is delicious. And what it tells you is this. Theo isn't coming from a pure place. Nobody in this story is. But he's coming from an honest place. A place that says, I have seen how this sausage gets made. I have had my face on a DHS recruitment video without my permission. I have been to the Christmas party. I know what these people are building and who benefits from it. And I am not going to sit in your studio, Joe, and pretend I don't know what I know. That's not heroism. That's just a man who's done performing. Let's talk about what sold out means, because I know the cynics in the comments are already typing something like, Rogan sold out years ago when he took the Spotify deal. This is old news. And yeah, everybody knows about the money. Everyone knows about Spotify. Everyone knows about the real estate and the UFC and the JRE empire. That's not what we're talking about. Selling out for money is almost forgivable. What we're talking about is something subtler and more corrosive. Selling out your instincts. Selling out the restless, distrustful, no one is above questioning energy that built you, and replacing it with a carefully managed, relationship-protecting, asset-preserving version of yourself that knows exactly where the lines are and never ever crosses them. That is what sold out means in 2026. And the most damning evidence of it is not the Spotify deal, it's the antidepressants comment. Because that comment, that reflexive, protective, conversation-ending joke, could only come from someone who has learned in a very deep part of himself that there are things you do not let run free on your platform anymore. That there are conversations that are too expensive to have. That when a friend starts sounding like you used to sound, when he starts asking the questions you used to ask about the people you used to question, the safest move is to make it about his mental health and let it quietly die. Old Rogan would have leaned forward. Old Rogan would have said, "Tell me more." Old Rogan would have had Jamie pull up 17 different tabs and spent 4 hours going down a rabbit hole about Palantir and drone warfare and the geopolitics of AI, and come out the other side with a 3-hour episode that half his audience loved and half hated, and all of them talked about for weeks. New Rogan tells his friend he needs different medication. New Rogan finds a biased-sounding phrase in an article and uses it as a reason not to read the article. New Rogan gets texts from the vice president, and you know what? Maybe he doesn't even mind. Maybe that's the part that should disturb you the most. Not that he got corrupted, not that someone got to him, but that somewhere along the way, Joe Rogan might have just decided that the view from inside was better. Decided that the senators and the tech billionaires and the political operatives texting his phone were more real, more consequential, more important than whatever uncomfortable truth was trying to come out of Theo Von's mouth. Decided that being an institution was more valuable than being a truth teller. And Theo Von, flawed, complicated, Tucker party attending, Uncle Theo Von, with his Cajun metaphors and his trauma comedy and his bizarre, beautiful, broken way of seeing the world. Theo Von sat across from him and simply refused to make that decision. He just kept talking. And in the gap between what Theo said and how Rogan responded, you can see the exact shape of what has been lost. Theo Von didn't sit Rogan down and say, "Joe, you sold out." He didn't need to. He just kept talking until Rogan's fear said it for him. So, is Joe Rogan actually sold out? Or is Theo just going through something and we're all reading too much into a podcast moment? That's the question I want in the comments. Because honestly, the people who defend Rogan on this are going to have some good points. And the people who think this is the most obvious thing in the world are also going to have good points. And that tension, that's where the most interesting conversation is. Drop your take below. And if you think there's someone in your life who needs to watch this, who still thinks 2026 Rogan is the same as 2016 Rogan, share it with them. Don't argue with them. Just send them this. Let them make up their own mind. Like and subscribe if this video made you feel something, and I'll see you in the next one.